The warning ignored. The stars had always been humanity's dream. But they became our nightmare the day the Veilthran Empire found us. It was 2157, and we had spread across 12 systems, mining asteroids and building colonies on distant worlds. We thought we were alone in the universe. We were wrong. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, watching the tactical display with growing concern. 3 days ago, unknown ships had appeared at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, where humanity's newest mining colony was just beginning to flourish. The ships were massive, sleek vessels that moved with a grace that spoke of technology far beyond anything Earth had ever created. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessels," reported Lieutenant Jackson, his voice tight. With tension, "It's not in any language our computers recognize, but the translation algorithms are working on it." Sarah nodded, her weathered face reflecting years of military service. She had fought in the colonial wars, survived the Titan rebellion, and commanded fleets against pirates and terrorists. But this was different. This was first contact with an alien species, and everything about their arrival screamed hostility. The translation came through moments later, delivered in cold, mechanical tones that chilled everyone on the bridge. "Primitive. Species of the third planet, you will cease all expansion beyond your original star system. Your colonies will be dismantled. Your ships will be surrendered. Compliance is not optional. You have been warned." Sarah felt her jaw clench. Warned. These aliens had arrived unannounced in human space, made demands, and called it a warning. She had spent 30 years defending humanity's right to exist and expand among the stars. She wasn't about to stop now. "Open a channel," she ordered. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Command. You have entered sovereign human territory without permission. State your intentions or withdraw immediately." The response came swiftly, accompanied by weapons fire that obliterated a mining station in the asteroid belt. Hundreds of miners died in seconds, their screams cut short by the vacuum of space. The alien voice returned, more forceful now. "You have been warned. Comply or face extinction." Captain Marcus Rivera was on the surface of New Brasilia when the news reached him. The colony was thriving, home to 50,000 settlers who had carved out a new life among the red rocks and purple skies of this distant world. Marcus had been inspecting the defensive installations, routine maintenance that suddenly became critically important. "Sir, we're getting priority messages from Earth Command," his communications officer reported. "Unknown hostiles have engaged our forces in 3 systems. All colonies are ordered to implement Defense Protocol 7. Defense Protocol 7. Marcus had helped write those procedures back when they were just theoretical exercises. The protocol assumed that humanity would one day face a technologically superior foe, and it outlined unconventional tactics designed to level the playing field. Guerrilla warfare in space, hidden weapons, caches, sleeper agents in seemingly innocent cargo ships. Most importantly, it included Project Prometheus, a network of defensive installations that had been secretly built throughout human space over the past 20 years. The project had consumed enormous resources, disguised as mining operations and deep space research stations. But it had all been building toward this moment, 3,000 light-years away. Empress Sixthera of the Veilthran Empire reviewed the reports from her forward scouts with satisfaction. The humans were exactly as predicted, a young, aggressive species that would need to be controlled before they became a threat. The Veilthrans had conquered 17 species over the past millennium, and they all followed the same pattern. Early expansion, primitive technology, and delusions of grandeur. That evaporated the moment they faced true military might. "The humans have been warned, Your Majesty," reported General Kethma, his scaled face showing the scars of a dozen conquered worlds. "Their military response was predictably inadequate. We destroyed several of their installations with minimal effort." "And their reaction?" the Empress asked, her forearms folded in a gesture of patience. "They are withdrawing their forces, abandoning outer colonies. Some are attempting to negotiate." The pattern is familiar. Indeed, it was. The Veilthrons had seen it all before. A brief show of defiance, followed by desperate attempts at diplomacy, and finally, complete surrender. The humans would be processed, their useful members incorporated into the Empire as servants, their troublemakers eliminated. It was efficient, predictable, and profitable, but efficiency bred overconfidence, and overconfidence bred mistakes. Sarah Chen was not withdrawing, she was preparing. The apparent retreat of human forces was carefully choreographed, drawing Veilthron scouts deeper into human space while hidden sensors mapped their ships, recorded their communications, and analyzed their weaknesses. Every piece of data was fed into Earth's most advanced tactical computers, building a picture of the enemy that would soon prove invaluable. "They're following our projections perfectly," reported Colonel Hayes from the Strategic Planning Division. "Veilthron forces are consolidating at 3 key points: the Centauri Junction, the Vega mining complex, and the outer edge of the Sol system itself." "Exactly where we want them," Sarah replied. She pulled up the holographic display of human space, with red indicators showing Veilthron positions and blue indicators showing the hidden Prometheus installations. The aliens had no idea they were surrounded. Marcus Rivera stood in the command bunker beneath New Brasilia, surrounded by screens showing tactical data from across human space. His orders were clear: make the enemy believe they had one, then show them how wrong they were. The colonists had been evacuated to hidden shelters, leaving behind a ghost town that would soon become a killing field. "Prometheus Station 7 is online and ready," his tactical officer reported. "Weapons are charged. Targeting systems are locked. We're ready to give them hell, sir." "Good. Remember, we get one chance at surprise. After that, it's all about making every shot count." The Veilthron Empire had grown complacent over centuries of easy conquest. Their ships were powerful but predictable, their tactics proven but inflexible. They approached each human colony the same way, with overwhelming force and absolute confidence. They had no reason to suspect that. Humanity's apparent weakness was carefully crafted bait. General Kethma commanded the assault on the Sol system personally, leading a fleet of 200 warships toward humanity's birthworld. Intelligence suggested that Earth's defenders were scattered and demoralized, their most powerful ships destroyed or fled. The planet would fall within hours, and the human species would learn the price of defying the Empire. "Deploy battle formations," he ordered as his fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. "Begin orbital bombardment of military installations. Show these primitives the futility of resistance." But as his ships moved toward Earth, they passed through a field of seemingly innocuous asteroids and debris. Hidden among the rocks were weapons platforms that had waited 20 years for this moment. Project Prometheus had turned the entire outer solar system into a trap, and the Veilthrons had walked directly into it. Sarah Chen watched from her command center deep beneath the Colorado mountains as red dots began disappearing from her tactical display. The first wave of Prometheus installations had opened fire simultaneously, catching the Veilthran fleet completely off guard. Kinetic bombardment weapons, previously hidden in fake asteroids, accelerated tungsten rods to incredible velocities. Laser arrays, disguised as research stations, carved through alien hulls with surgical precision. First wave effectiveness: 67% of targeted vessels destroyed or disabled, reported her tactical officer. Remaining Veilthran forces are breaking formation, attempting to identify threat sources. Signal all Prometheus stations. Commence Phase 2. All human vessels execute Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol was humanity's answer to technological inferiority. Instead of meeting the enemy in direct battle, human ships would strike from stealth, using every trick of deception and misdirection that centuries of warfare had taught them. They emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system, cargo ships that were actually disguised warships, mining vessels equipped with military-grade weapons, even passenger liners converted into missile platforms. The Veilthrans found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to behave according to their expectations. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck hard, then vanished back into the asteroid fields and gas clouds. Their weapons were primitive but effective, designed to exploit the weaknesses that careful observation had revealed in Veilthran technology. General Kethma watched his proud fleet being torn apart by an enemy he had dismissed as helpless. His flagship shuddered under repeated impacts from human railguns, weapons that used simple kinetic energy to devastating effect. Warning lights flashed across his command center as system after system failed. "Sir, we're receiving transmission from the human fleet," his communications officer reported. "Put it through," Kethma snarled, expecting pleas for mercy instead. He heard Admiral Sarah Chun's calm, deadly voice. "General, this is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Command. You were warned to leave our space. You chose to ignore that. Warning, now you will face the consequences." The transmission ended, and moments later, the General's flagship exploded under concentrated fire from a dozen human vessels that had materialized around it like ghosts. Kethma died, still unable to understand how his superior technology had been defeated by primitive savages. Across human space, the pattern repeated. Veilthran forces that had expected easy victory found themselves outmaneuvered, outgunned, and outfought by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. The Empire's standard tactics, proven against 16 other species, crumbled against humanity's unconventional approach to warfare. Marcus Rivera led the counterattack at New Brazil, turning the abandoned colony into a trap that claimed an entire Veilthran battle group. His hidden weapons platforms emerged from beneath the planet's surface, catching the enemy in a crossfire that left no survivors. Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds as humanity's carefully planned defenses activated simultaneously. The war that the Veilthrans had expected to last hours stretched into days, then weeks. Their losses mounted steadily as human forces pressed their advantage. Ships that had seemed primitive revealed hidden capabilities. Colonies that appeared defenseless became death traps. And through it all, humanity's message remained constant. You were warned, asterisk, the Empire burns the Veilthran. Empire had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years through overwhelming technological superiority and ruthless efficiency. Their subjects obeyed because resistance was futile. Their enemies submitted because defeat was inevitable. But now, for the first time in centuries, an imperial fleet was in full retreat, pursued by an enemy that should have been extinct. Empress Zixtera, received the news of General Cathmar's defeat with disbelief that quickly turned to fury. 80% of the Sol System assault force had been destroyed, and the survivors brought tales of human weapons appearing from nowhere, ships that struck like phantoms, and tactics that defied all military logic. Impossible, she declared, her four arms gesturing in agitation. These humans are a primitive species. Their technology is centuries behind ours. How could they defeat a full Imperial battle fleet? Admiral Vextar Cathmar's replacement studied the battlefield recordings with growing unease. Your Majesty, it appears we underestimated their military capabilities. They have been hiding their true strength, luring us into prepared ambushes. Their weapons may be primitive, but they are being used with devastating effectiveness. The Empress hissed. In frustration, no species had ever successfully resisted Imperial expansion. The very idea challenged the fundamental assumptions upon which the Empire was built. Send the Second Fleet. Crush these humans completely. Show the galaxy that defying the Empire leads only to extinction. But humanity was no longer content to play defense. Admiral Sarah Chen had spent weeks studying captured Veilthran technology, and her scientists had made breakthrough discoveries about their enemies' capabilities and weaknesses. More importantly, they had learned where the Empire's heart lay, the Veilthran homeworld of Zixandra, 3,000 light-years from Earth. It's time to take the war to them, Sarah announced during a strategy meeting with Earth's top military commanders. They came to our space expecting easy conquest. Now they'll learn what happens when you threaten humanity's children. The plan was audacious beyond belief. Using captured Veilthran navigation data, human forces would launch a deep strike against the Empire's core systems, targeting not just military installations, but the infrastructure that kept their civilization functioning. It was the kind of total warfare that had made humanity so effective against its own kind, now turned against an alien oppressor. Captain Marcus Rivera commanded the lead element of Operation Retribution, a mixed force of human warships, converted cargo vessels, and captured Veilthran technology. His fleet moved through hyperspace using routes that the Empire believed were secure, appearing in systems that had never seen enemy action. The attacks began simultaneously across 50 Imperial worlds. Human forces struck with the same precision and ruthlessness that the Veilthrans had once used against others. Mining operations were destroyed, shipping lanes were disrupted, and communication networks were severed. The Empire's vast bureaucracy, dependent on constant information flow, began to collapse as worlds found themselves isolated and under siege. Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the Vextar system, reported Lieutenant Commander Park from the ESS Vengeance. It looks like a major Imperial shipyard. Marcus smiled grimly. The Vextar shipyard was one of the Empire's primary construction facilities, capable of building dozens of warships simultaneously. Its destruction would cripple Veilthran military production for years to come. Signal the fleet. We're going in hard and fast. Remember, we're not here to conquer territory. We're here to send a message. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, catching the shipyard's defenders completely off guard. Imperial vessels that had been conducting routine patrols suddenly found themselves under attack from enemies who fought like madmen, using ramming attacks, suicide runs, and tactics that no civilized species would consider. The battle was over. In hours, the Vextar shipyard, along with 37 partially completed warships, was reduced to expanding debris. Similar victories occurred throughout. Imperial space as human forces demonstrated that nowhere was safe from their reach. Empress Zixtara watched. Her empire began to crumble with growing desperation. Reports flooded in from across Imperial territory. Fleets destroyed, colonies abandoned, entire sectors falling silent. The humans weren't just winning battles. They were systematically dismantling everything the Veilthrons had built over centuries of conquest. "Your Majesty, we must negotiate," urged Admiral Vextar during an emergency council session. "These humans are unlike any enemy we have faced. They fight with a ferocity that borders on insanity. They care nothing for their own losses as long as they can inflict damage on us." "The Empire does not negotiate with primitives," the Empress snapped, but her voice lacked its usual certainty. The reports from the front lines were becoming increasingly disturbing. Human forces were not just destroying Imperial installations. They were hunting down fleeing Veilthron ships with relentless determination. Survivors spoke of human vessels that pursued damaged Imperial cruisers across multiple star systems, refusing to let even a single enemy escape. The turning point came when human forces appeared in the Zixandra system itself. The Imperial homeworld had been considered impregnable, protected by the largest fleet in Veilthron space and defended by orbital weapons platforms that could shatter planets. But humanity had learned from every previous battle, adapting their tactics to overcome each new challenge. Sarah Chen commanded the assault personally, leading a fleet that combined human ingenuity with captured Imperial technology. Her ships moved through the outer system like a plague, destroying everything in their path. Mining stations, communication relays, defensive platforms, all fell before the human advance. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial Palace," reported her communications officer. "It's the Empress herself. Put her through." The holographic display flickered to life, showing Empress Zixtara in all her alien majesty. But there was fear in her reptilian eyes now. Fear that had been absent when she had ordered humanity's destruction. "Human Admiral, I propose terms for ending this conflict. The Empire is prepared to offer territorial concessions, trade agreements, and compensation for our initial misunderstanding." Sarah's expression remained cold as ice. "Your Majesty, you were warned. When your ships first entered human space, we gave you a clear message: leave our territory or face the consequences. You chose to ignore that warning. You chose to attack our colonies, murder our people, and attempt to enslave our species. But surely we can reach some accommodation, asterisk." "You misunderstood the nature of humanity," Sarah continued, cutting off the Empress's desperate plea. "When we give a warning, we mean it. When we make a promise, we keep it. And we promised that if you came for us, you would burn." The transmission ended, and moments later, human forces began their final assault on the Imperial homeworld. The battle raged for days as centuries of Veilthron civilization burned beneath the relentless human attack. Orbital shipyards exploded in brilliant fireballs. Government buildings collapsed under kinetic bombardment, and the proud spires of the imperial capital crumbled into rubble. Marcus Rivera led the ground assault on the imperial palace, his marines fighting through desperate Veilthron defenders with the methodical efficiency of professionals. They weren't here for conquest or plunder. They were here to deliver a message that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The Empress was found in her throne room, surrounded by her dead guards, still clutching the symbols of her power. She looked up at Marcus with eyes full of incomprehension and growing terror. "Why," she whispered, "your species could have served the Empire. We could have given you purpose, direction, a place in our grand design. Marcus knelt beside her, his voice quiet but filled with absolute certainty. Because you came to our home, you threatened our children. You thought we would kneel because your ships were bigger, your weapons more advanced. But you never understood what you were really facing. What are you? She asked, her voice barely audible. We're human, Marcus replied. And when humans give a warning, smart people listen. The fall of the Veilthran Empire sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Species that had lived under imperial rule for centuries suddenly found themselves free, while others that had planned to challenge humanity quickly reconsidered their intentions. The message was clear: Earth's children could not be conquered, enslaved, or intimidated. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship as human fleets returned home, their mission complete. The war had cost humanity dearly, millions dead, dozens of colonies destroyed, resources stretched to the breaking point. But they had proven something important, that warnings have consequences and promises are kept. Admiral, we're receiving communications from 17 different species, reported her communications officer. They're all requesting diplomatic contact with Earth. And their tone, Sarah asked. Extremely respectful, ma'am. Almost deferential. Sarah nodded with grim satisfaction. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson about humanity. They could be peaceful neighbors, reliable allies, and generous friends. But they were also implacable enemies who would pursue their foes to the ends of the universe if provoked. The Veilthran Empire was gone, its fleet scattered, its homeworld in ruins, its empress dead. But its legacy lived on in the form of a warning that would be passed down through galactic history. When humanity tells you to stay away, you listen, because if you don't, you burn. In the end, the Empire had been given a choice. They chose to ignore the warning. They chose to attack humanity's children. They chose war over peace, conquest over coexistence, arrogance over wisdom, and in making those choices, they had chosen their own destruction. The galaxy would remember the fate of the Veilthran Empire for centuries to come, a reminder of what happens when you underestimate the species that calls itself human. The stars belong to humanity now. Not through conquest, but through the simple fact that no one else dared challenge them. Earth's children had spread across the galaxy, and they carried with them the memory of what happened to those who threatened their family. The Empire had struck first. Humanity had made sure they would never strike again. Asterisk.